Quick announcement at the end of the video. Make sure to watch till the end. Hello guys, and welcome back to another MCreator tutorial. Today what we're going to be working on is making tool tiers. So basically something very similar to how vanilla works, but we're going to make custom ones. And I already have the project workspace set up. I will be basically breaking down the different parts, explaining how to use it, and then we'll be also looking at some of the problems as we progress with the tutorial. So let's get started, and I'll start with the in-game example. In my inventory, I have a iron pickaxe, wooden or diamond pickaxe, netherite pickaxe, ruby pickaxe that is after the tier of the netherite pickaxe, and then I also have a sapphire pickaxe, which is after the tier of the ruby pickaxe. So it's basically in the same order for the tier as basically working from the left to right. So that's the tier that they're in. 4 being netherite, and then there would be 5 for a ruby, and then 6 for the sapphire if you were using the old system for tiers. Now, when we try to mine these blocks here, I'm going to go into survival, and we're going to try with a iron pickaxe. And as you can see, it doesn't drop any particular items when I do that. We can try a diamond pickaxe. It still doesn't drop anything. We can try another one. It goes a little bit faster. That is due to the way that I have the item set up to work around the vanilla tiers. So that can't really, making it go slower can't really be fixed. So it just kind of breaks really quickly. If we go and grab our ruby pickaxe, we'll be able to drop the block though with this one. And if we use the sapphire pickaxe, we can go ahead and drop the block as well because it's a higher tier item. Going over to this block set, we have basically this is a block that requires the sapphire or better. And then we can kind of test how this works with all the items as well. So we'll start with iron, and as you can see, it doesn't drop anything. We can go ahead and try diamond, still doesn't drop. Netherite works a little bit faster like the other block over here, but it doesn't drop anything. We can try ruby. It's also slow but doesn't drop anything. And then lastly, we can use sapphire, which basically drops the block. All right, so that's basically the sum of how we go ahead and break the things and how the results are based on that. Let's go into MCreator now, and we'll take a look at the tags that I have set up, and then we'll start exploring the workspace. So we'll cover block properties first, and then we'll go into the item properties. And once we're done with that, then I'll start looking at the tags, because there's a lot of tags that we need to cover and how those actually are set up on Wiki, which explains a little bit of it, but it's a little bit hard to wrap your head around. Like, I had a really hard time trying to figure out how they were able to do this and how to set it up in the procedures and stuff, but I did get there eventually. It took a lot of thought yesterday, and I'm surprised I was able to get everything prepped because I was up at like 5 a.m. And I was so tired yesterday, so I'm pretty impressed that I was able to figure it out on top of that. So we'll start with the block itself, and for the materials and stuff, we don't need to worry about any of the visual or anything. The only thing that we really need to focus on is the properties tab for the settings that we need. Everything else can be customized, and it doesn't really matter too much. So what we're looking at is the dropping properties, and that's where we're going to be focusing most of our attention on today. So first thing is we need the tool to be required, correct tool for drop. So we need to check that particular block or checkbox, and then we need to select our tool type. Now that tool able to destroy, this is the tag for the blocks tag type for the Minecraft namespace, and then it's under mineable, and then it will be the tool type that it is. So in this case, we have pickaxe for our tools for both of these blocks. So the pickaxe part will change based on the tool. It will either be pickaxe, axe, shovel, or hoe. And for this, we'll just have the pickaxe. Another thing that we need to do is for the vanilla tool type for a block, when we're creating a new tier set, we do not want to select any of the tool tiers for the vanilla tool tier. We want to leave this on none so we can make use of this later on in the additional harvest condition procedure, which I'll be covering in a little bit. So that's all for the blocks. It's pretty consistent through both of the settings. If we will go to the other block as well, it's the same exact settings. We're just using a different additional procedure for additional harvest procedure for this particular tool tier. Now, when it comes to those procedures, you can actually reuse these for across all your different elements. It's pretty dynamic for utilizing this particular material. As long as this is the same material type for that tier, it should work across your entire mod. So you really only need 2 procedures for these particular things. One for the block and then one for the pickaxe or the tool itself. So when we're getting to the tool itself, we're only focusing on the properties tab. Now, if you're making a custom drop tier, what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's on netherite for the highest tier, and then what you want to do is basically set the type of tool. So in this case, it's a pickaxe. And then what we want to do is we want to also make sure that the additional drop condition is set as well. So we're using that to specify the incorrect for Ruby tool condition. So we'll be basically doing that for our material, and then we're going to be rendering if it can basically drop that kind of item or not. All right, so now would be a good time to explain the tags and how they basically work. So the easiest way I can kind of do that is going on to Minecraft Wiki and going to the tag page, and then we're going to go under the block tags. Now, these are the tags that are used for basically the material type. So when we're selecting our block, we basically show what ones are mineable through the tool type. So axe, hoe, pickaxe, shovel. Those are the ones that I listed before. And those are actually only one of the tags that are used in the block breaking properties. If we scroll a little bit down, we'll see the tags down here called incorrect for diamond tool, incorrect for golden or gold tool, incorrect for iron tool, incorrect for netherite. Now the gold and diamond one the diamond and netherite one aren't actually used for anything, but we will make use of the diamond one in a little bit, not the netherite one. And then there is the incorrect for stone tool, and then there is the incorrect one for wooden tool. So if we look at the side here, you can kind of see how they're basically set up. Now gold and wooden ones are the same tier. So wood is basically the same tier as gold, and then stone is its own tier, iron is its own tier, and then so is diamond. And basically certain blocks have specific requirements when they're being broken, and those fall under the needs, and then the material type, and then tool under the Minecraft namespace. So if we look at the golden one, for example, all these are above the wooden tier type. So you can see that needs stone tool, needs iron tool, and needs diamond tool for all this particular tag. So all the blocks that are in those particular tags are basically incorrect for, say, gold, because it's actually a wooden item, right? So it's considered wooden, and same with the wooden one. But when we go to stone, we can see that there is needs diamond, it needs iron, but there's no needs stone or needs wooden one. So the tiers below that particular, the current tier is always basically allowed to basically break that particular block. So it's safe to say that the needs tag is basically the one that stores all our blocks. So let's go ahead and click on the diamond one. If we go down here, we can see that there is needs diamond tool, needs iron tool, needs stone tool, but there's no needs netherite. And that's because netherite doesn't actually have any blocks that require the block to be broken with a netherite tool. So diamond, for example, only requires obsidian, crying obsidian, netherite block, respawn anchor, and ancient debris or debris, where iron requires a few additional ones like diamond block, gold, diamond ore, a few other things as well. So these are the blocks that basically are in that list. So any of the tools or blocks that we want to make sure that it can only require this kind of tool or higher, we would put in these kinds of tags. So now when we're focusing in on our own tags, we need to make sure that they're kind of set up the same way. And when we're adding our own tier tools, like the types of tools, when we're doing the incorrect tags, we also have to add them to all the previous tags as well. So this is where the incompatibility kind of slips in, is because you're not sure if there's going to be other mods with different material types and stuff like that. That's could pose a problem with the breaking properties of tools themselves. So say somebody adds emerald tool set and that's higher than say netherite, or maybe it's the same as stone, but you're not sure if that mod's going to be in the same mod folder as your own mod. Well, we don't really have a way to determine all the different types of tags and stuff that are going to be used, right? So it's quite possible that unless the same mod uses the same tag for that particular same tool tier, it's not going to be, it's going to have mod conflict and stuff. So it's just something that Mojang hasn't really thought through that well, and honestly I think they've designed the feature itself for their own personal needs rather than what the community needs for modding. And I'm not too impressed with the change, as well as many other of the community members and stuff like that, but it's here. They might change it in the future. It's quite possible that they will, but I don't know. I'll explain how to kind of work around that, and you can kind of figure out the rest, I guess. So let's go to our tags and we'll start looking at what we have set up here. All right, so tag-wise, we have our incorrect ones, which are all these ones here. You might have noticed that the Ruby tag is incorrect for Ruby tool, is under the C namespace. Many mod APIs like Fabric, I think, utilize the C tag, which is basically stands for common. And because we want mod compatibility, or as much as compatibility as we can, we're going to put it under that particular tag. Now, if you run into issues with other mods and stuff like that, and you need support for a specific tier, you might have to rearrange how your tiers are structured, or you're going to have to put it under mod namespace. I'll explain a little bit of that in towards the end of the video. We also need our needs Ruby tool and needs Sapphire tool for the blocks that we are going to go ahead and basically put the blocks that can be mined as well. So we have two C tags for those, which are the needs Ruby tool and needs Sapphire tool. So these are the two blocks that I had set up for those. And then we're working on the material types. As you can see, I've added both of those needs tags to the previous Minecraft states as well. So if we hover over this, you can kind of see that it says needs Sapphire tool, and the other tag here is needs Ruby tool. So both of these are linked to the vanilla ones, which are incorrect tool for diamond, incorrect for diamond tool, incorrect for the iron tool, and then we have stone and wooden ones as well. So those all have those same tags under them that are for these two tags down here for the need ones. Lastly, what we have is our incorrect for dime or ruby, which is basically just has sapphire, which is the tier above that. And when we're working with that, we can start looking at how it's functioning in the procedures themselves. All right, so let's take a quick look at the first block procedure. Now this is the one that's used for the harden block, and we can see some different changes going on here. So we're basically returning a value if it is true or false. And what we're testing for is two main things. The first thing that we're testing for is if the tool or the block itself is under the common tag, which needs Ruby tool. The other condition we're testing for is if the tool that is being mining the block is not a netherite pickaxe. Now this is to work around a issue when you're working with the highest material type for your tool, the material type. So we can't actually select none or custom tool type. So basically what happens is we need to basically make sure that it's on netherite for the highest tier, and then we have to specify to make sure that it's not a netherite tool itself. So that's basically what we're doing here. We're just making sure that the item that the player is holding is not a netherite tool, and that the tool for the block to be able to be destroyed with is at least ruby or higher. So that's what that is. I know it's confusing because it's a block tag, but blocks can also be items as well. And when we're working with this, we're just testing if the block needs a ruby tool or not, and if the tool that we're basically mining with is not a netherite pickaxe. All right, hopefully that made sense. To build this, what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the flow control, and we're going to go ahead and grab a return block, and then we're going to go to logic, grab the light blue operator with the equal sign, and we're going to click on the equal sign and go and then we want to go external input, so it's like this. This is only for visual to make it a little bit easier to read. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead to the block property or block procedures, and then we're going to go down to data, and we want to scroll down until we see the is and then a block selector tagged in block tags as. And we're going to replace that block tag with the Minecraft component for provided block state. And that's going to basically tell it to select the block that we're basically working on, like using in this case. So the block that we're mining in this particular case. And then we're going to use our tag here for the namespace, and then colon, and then the path for the tag. So that would be under C needs, and then the material type. So the material type is in the middle, underscore, and then the tool at the end. And then for the item one, what we need to do is go under logic, grab the not block, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go under logic again, grab the red block for the equal sign, and then we need to go to entity procedures, data, item in main hand of, and then we're going to put that in the first slot here. And then we need to go to Minecraft components and grab a item selector, and then we're going to click on the box, the gray one, and we're going to go to items and then select our netherite pickaxe here. So that's all you need to do to create this kind of procedure. And it's very similar to the other block as well. The only thing is the tag is a little bit different. Okay, so now that we covered the additional harvest condition for the block, let's cover the item itself. All right, so going to the item, we can go to properties and then click on the additional drop condition. And we only have a very simple one that we have going on here. What we're doing is we're testing if the tag or the block that we're basically mining with the item is not in the incorrect for the material type tool tag. So in this case, what we're doing is we're testing for the ruby pickaxe if the block itself is not in the incorrect for ruby tool tag. So basically, if it's not in that particular tag, then what we can do is we can basically, this will return true. if it can be mined with the Ruby tool. So to find all these blocks, I've already covered them in the other procedure, but we can do this again. So basically what we want to do is go to flow control, grab the light blue operator here, return logic, and then what we want to do is we want to grab a not block, and that's under logic as well. And then we want to go to block data, and then we want to scroll down until we get is block tagged in block tags as, and then it by default is Minecraft logs. And then we want to do our path for our namespace and path here. And we're going to remove this particular one and select block state. So we need to go under the Minecraft components for that one and basically select that. So that's all that's going on here. Now this should be the same material as your tool that you're working with. So basically we're working with a Ruby pickaxe, so we would basically specify the Ruby tool here. And then when we're working with the block one, what we're doing is we're making sure that the material is the type that we want it to basically break with. So this tool tier or higher. So in this case, Ruby would be the tool of what we're working with, or the higher one, so like Sapphire would be able to break this as well. All right, so that's that part, and now that just kind of leaves just a quick review of the other procedures, so we can kind of show you how the other ones work. So we have the needs one, which is very similar to the Sapphire one that we had, or the Ruby one that we have here. The other one is the Sapphire one, which is the only difference is the middle part for the material. This is just Sapphire, where the other one that we covered already is Ruby. So that's the only difference here. And the one for the solid block can be mined with Sapphire or actually just Sapphire, where the one that's the hardened block can be mined with Sapphire or Ruby. So, and then we have the incorrect for Sapphire, which is the item trigger. And again, we're just specifying the material type as Sapphire for incorrect for Sapphire tool. So when we add support later on for another tier or whatever, this will automatically be able to detect that part. Okay, so now that we've figured out how to set all this particular up, there is the last thing that I wanted to cover, and that's compatibility. There can be times that when two mods are basically have separate material types or the same material, say both mods added a Ruby and a Sapphire or something like that, then what could happen is there could be a conflict when working with the tags themselves. Now putting it under the C namespace will basically just make it so the lower block can't be mined with either tool type, and that's kind of a problem when you're working with certain materials. We're going to go ahead and add a tool tier for incorrect for Sapphire, and we're going to link the Ruby one up to that one. So I'm going to quickly make the tag. All right, so this is the tag that we're going to be adding. It's under the block type, and then it's under the C namespace, and then we have incorrect for Sapphire tool. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to add our needs Ruby tool, and basically what we're doing here is I'm going to draw a diagram of basically what's happening for the order of the tool type, just so it's a little bit easier to kind of understand what that one tag now does. All right, so to break down what's going on, we have our mod 1 and mod 2. So both of these have different ways of how they structured their additional tiers. Both are under the C namespace, so we can see that the custom tiers are under the common namespace. And what can happen is when we have this particular type here set up for the part for the tier 6 and tier 7, we have basically reversed those particular types. Now in some cases mods might not have the same level of tier for the type of material and stuff, And what happens is basically it cancels out the lower tier for that particular item. So one of the mods will actually take priority, and usually it's cancels that particular one out. The higher tier up here will basically still work as normal usually, but again, it cancels out one of the materials and stuff like that. So when we've added our tag here, basically what we've done is we've basically created the same system where mod 1 and mod 2 will basically use the same system, but we're basically reversing the material type, so it will basically lose compatibility with each other. So we'll go in game right now and we'll basically test to see how that basically functions on the last tier, and hopefully you'll get an idea of what will happen. Alright, so we have both of our items here. We have the ruby pickaxe and the sapphire pickaxe. Now all the materials below that won't be compatible still. The only thing that's going to be different is our tool tier types. So this one before worked with mining out the hardened blocks, which is the black block here. And then the other one for the sapphire worked on breaking the I think I have the name the same for the GUI. So this is the solid block itself. So what's going to happen is it's going to basically mess up the compatibility for breaking with the sapphire for this one, and ruby will still not be able to be broken with this one. So let's go ahead and just kind of play around with that. We'll go ahead and switch our game mode to survival so we can test it, and we'll break this, and we can see that we still get the ruby one, but when we go ahead and try breaking it with the sapphire here, it also drops it. Now this is going to vary depending on the compatibility. Sometimes I've had it where sapphire hasn't actually dropped anything, and where other times it has. So we can go into this one now and we can try breaking it with ruby. Nothing happens, but if we go ahead and try breaking it with sapphire, it does. So in theory, what happens is it basically cancels out one of the provided ones, and it's kind of a mixed result when it does so, because this same thing, because ruby could technically also break, or sapphire technically could break this one, but technically ruby isn't supposed to break this one on one of the mods as well. So that's kind of the problem that's kind of happening with some of these things. And when I actually recorded this tutorial twice, and I used the same tag and everything, and before it was kind of reversed. Sapphire wouldn't be able to break this one, it wouldn't drop anything, and the ruby would be able, well, ruby can't still break that one. So it's a little bit reversed when it's coming down to that part, and that's going to cause a little bit issues with mods and stuff that are making use of the system itself. So just something to keep in mind. So just a last note that I kind of propose for the community to implement, rather than using the material name for the tag itself. So rather than using, say, needs a ruby tool or needs sapphire tool, that you kind of use a type of tier system. This will allow compatibility between more mods, and always have it particularly working for the type as well. As long as the tier is formatted very similar to other mods, like the exact same, it should have proper compatibility. So I propose that using the like tier 5 and then tier 6 for the next two tiers, and then that way other mods can just specify that particular group for the type of tool that they want, rather than basically saying ruby or sapphire for where the tier 5 is. This will fix the compatibility issue when it comes down to tags and stuff like that, because then every mod kind of has an idea of what kind of tier that they're going to be working with, rather than having the tag specified for a very specific type of material, and that itself can cause conflict. But if you were to use like tier 5 or tier 6, then everyone's on the same page of what kind of tier it's going to be for. So that's basically the fix that I would suggest doing, rather than having like needs Ruby tool or needs Sapphire tool, to rather instead use like needs tier 5 or needs tier 6. When it comes to the incorrect for wooden one, like for the vanilla tags, you would basically leave those as the vanilla form, because we can't really change the vanilla game, but we can change where our C mods are for incorrect for Ruby, and we'll change that to need or incorrect for tier 5, and the other one for Sapphire would be incorrect for tier 6. So then that way mods can just specify the tier that they want, and it would go into it. Now, when you're working with numbers and stuff like that, I would probably say that it would be easier just to forget the zeros and above it, and not worry about the type of tier. So if it was like a higher tier, like say like 105 or something like that, it would only be like tier 105. And if it's like a double digit, then say it would be like tier 10 or something like that. And then when it's a single digit, it would be like tier 5 or whatever. So we're not actually needing to add multiple zeros or anything like that before. And for simplicity wise, I would not add underscore between 5 or the number that we would be basically adding for that. It should be kind of like structured right in one word, so it's just like tier and then immediately the number. So in this case, like tier 5 or tier 6 or tier 7 or something like that. So that way it's structured in a way that everyone can understand and remember, and it's also more compact that way as well. I have this friend that has their own server hosting company, and they have the lowest prices in the server hosting community, and they've given me a promo code to give to you guys. So if you want to get a good deal for the first month, then you can use the promo code Northwest for 45% off your first month. Offer expires July 19th, 2034. The link to their site is in the description. So outside of that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.